There's never been a lot of common sense on this planet, but lately it's hit a critical low. If you like this video and want more discussions about common sense, hit those like and subscribe buttons. I will really appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome to The Trump Show, Season 5, Episode 186, a reality show based solely on lies, proudly sponsored by MAGA and the brainless millions. Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump are now saying Obama committed treason because he has said there was collusion between Trump and Russia during the 2016 election. What is collusion anyway? Collusion. Secret or illegal cooperation or conspiracy, especially in order to cheat or deceive others. Did that at least appear to have happened during the 2016 campaign? Remember Don Jr. having secret meetings with Russians in Trump Tower? Remember him lying about it? He eventually came clean about it, but why did he lie?
At the core of this is a June 2016 meeting that Donald Trump Jr. took with then Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort and Russian lawyer Natalia Veselnitskaya. According to this meeting, Donald Trump Jr. telling investigators on the Senate Judiciary Committee that she had proposed that she might have, quote unquote, political dirt on Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton.
On June 3, 2016, a trusted associate emails Trump Jr. that one of Donald Trump's former business partners had been contacted by a senior Russian government official and was offering the Trump campaign information that would incriminate Hillary Clinton and her dealings with Russia and would be very useful to your father. Adding, this is obviously very high-level and sensitive information, but is part of Russia and its government's support for Mr. Trump.
First, Bannon says this about the June 9th meeting at Trump Tower. Quote, even if you thought that this was not treasonous or unpatriotic or bad blank, and I happen to think it's all of that, you should have called the FBI immediately. So that's Bannon talking about that meeting between Donald Trump Jr. and a group of Russians. And that's not all. He goes further, talking about special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. Quote, you realize where this is going. This is all about money laundering. He says Mueller chose senior prosecutor Andrew Weissman first, and he is a money laundering guy. Their path to blank Trump goes right through Paul Manafort, Don Jr., and Jared Kushner. It's as plain as the hair on your face.
He also said the president did not know about the June 2016 meeting with a Russian lawyer. The big issue here is that meeting and the subsequent explanations of it. Initially, the president's son told the New York Times the meeting was primarily about Russian adoptions, never mentioning the fact that he agreed to the meeting after being told in an email that the person had information that might hurt Hillary Clinton's campaign.
In March 2017, Donald Trump Jr. said that he had never set up a meeting with a Russian national, and he had not done so in his capacity for the Trump campaign. But now in July 2017, with all the information we have at hand, thanks to the New York Times, we know that that is false.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration is pushing back on allegations of collusion with the Russians after Donald Trump Jr. changed his story about a meeting with a Russian attorney. Mola Lenghi has details from the White House.
Donald Trump Jr. admits he met with a Russian attorney during the U.S. presidential campaign because she claimed to have damaging information on Hillary Clinton.
He was told that there would be information that may be helpful to the campaign. There was no such information.
Trump Jr., campaign chairman Paul Manafort, and the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, met with Natalia Veselnitskaya, a Russian lawyer with possible ties to the Kremlin.
Remember Trump lying about Don Jr. having secret meetings with Russians in Trump Tower? Wasn't Trump right upstairs in Trump Tower when Don Jr. was having the meeting? Why did Trump lie about Don Jr. having meetings with Russians in Trump Tower?
It's oftentimes I'm getting ready to do my...
U.S. President Donald Trump gave his clearest admission yet on Sunday that the purpose of the meeting between son Don Jr. and a Kremlin-connected lawyer before the 2016 presidential election was to get dirt on Hillary Clinton.
Trump's most recent statement on Don Jr.'s coordination with Russia had 3 major lies in it. The first...
It's Oppo research. If he did wrong, then everybody standing with me probably, except for John. And Lamar, I think Lamar is pretty. I'll tell you, did you ever do Oppo research on an opponent? I don't think so.
When the reality is, it was a coordinated effort with a hostile foreign government to attack our democratic principles. The second lie.
Then I heard that Don, for a year, made 3 phone calls with an unmarked number. They called it unmarked. That these phone calls, these tremendous phone calls, before the meeting and after the meeting, they all knew that it had to be to his father. Unmarked, it's perfect. Except after looking and spending a tremendous amount of time and money, they were able to go back years and find out who made the calls. One was a local real estate developer. The other was a great person from NASCAR. I never knew about the meeting. But the phone calls to the father turned out not to be the phone calls.
The facts are that this hasn't been proven, and that there are still legal concerns that Donald Trump Jr. called his father's block number inside Trump Tower to give him information that the Russians were giving him. And lastly,
my son was totally exonerated by Mueller.
Which couldn't be further from Robert Mueller's team's explanation that there was plenty of evidence to investigate, but not enough evidence to prove that he, quote, willfully, unquote, violated the law.
But here's the next big shoe that dropped on this story today. The AP and CNN both reported today that one of the things Donald Trump Jr. told the Senate is that he doesn't recall anything about the White House or the president himself being involved in crafting the first statement that was written about why Donald Jr. went to a meeting with a whole bunch of Russians last June at Trump Tower, along with Jared Kushner and Paul Manafort. Quote, Donald Trump Jr. told Senate Judiciary Committee staffers today that he did not recall the details of White House involvement in the public response to his 2016 meeting with a Russian lawyer. Quote, he told the committee he did not know much about the Air Force One meeting that allegedly led to the production of his statement.
Sometime in the summer of 2017, I read all over the media that there had been a meeting in Trump Tower in June of 2016 involving Don Jr. and others from the campaign with Russians, including a representative of the Russian government, and an email setting up the meeting with the subject line, "Dirt on Hillary Clinton." Something clicked in my mind. I remembered being in a room with Mr. Trump, probably in early June of 2016, when something peculiar happened. Don Trump Jr. came into the room and walked behind his father's desk, which in and of itself was unusual. People didn't just walk behind Mr. Trump's desk to talk to him. And I recall Don Jr. leaning over to his father and speaking in a low voice, which I could clearly hear, and saying, "The meeting is all set." And I remember Mr. Trump saying, "Okay, good, let me know."
Paul Manafort was also having secret meetings with Russians during the 2016 campaign. In fact, he gave data to the Russians about the 2016 campaign. Just another member of the Trump campaign having secret meetings with Russians during an election. But no collusion going on here.
Meantime, some powerful Russians had leverage over Paul Manafort while he ran President Trump's campaign. At least that's according to a new report published by Time magazine. The report says Manafort was being pressured to pay back millions of dollars he owed to a Russian billionaire with close ties to the Kremlin.
In August of 2016, Paul Manafort is the chairman of Donald Trump's campaign. In early August, Paul Manafort goes to a room on the penthouse of 666 Fifth Avenue, the Grand Havana. It's a private cigar club. He meets with a man who has come from outside the United States for this meeting, a guy named Konstantin Kilimnik, a Russian who had worked at Paul Manafort's political consulting business. WikiLeaks was the big one, which was about 2 weeks before this meeting. WikiLeaks first published these thousands of pages of stolen Democratic Party emails, and people suspected Russia had stolen them pretty much right from the start. You had this press conference that people may remember with Donald Trump.
Russia, if you're listening.
Where instead of sort of condemning Putin and Russia, he kind of mockingly said, you know, Russia, if you're listening, I hope you can find Hillary Clinton's deleted emails. So there was all this attention on Russia, and then right after that, Paul Manafort is having this meeting. Kilimnik was a guy he was a Soviet Army veteran. He had trained at a language academy in Moscow that's known as a sort of recruiting ground for the Russian intelligence services. And he worked for Paul Manafort for 10 years. But just within the last year, the special counsel's office has told us something else really important about Kilimnik, which is that the FBI has assessed that he had ties to Russian intelligence. And potentially also talking about polling data that Paul Manafort gave to Kilimnik for some reason related to the U.S. presidential campaign.
Americans have to understand who Donald Trump the man is, not just...
For months, the FBI has considered Paul Manafort a person of interest. Now, new revelations that the former Trump campaign chair has been on the radar of U.S. government investigators since 2014. The surveillance began under secret court orders. It was stopped due to a lack of evidence, but resumed again last year and into 2017. Those recorded communications are now part of the broad investigation being led by Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller into whether there was collusion between Russia and Trump campaign officials.
Jared didn't want anyone to accuse the Trump campaign of colluding with the Russians, so he did the only thing he could. He tried to set up a secret back channel with the Russians because if nobody saw them talking to the Russians, well, then it didn't happen.
Bombshell report in the Washington Post. The Post reporting the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and Russia's ambassador discussed the possibility of setting up a secret channel of communications between the Trump transition team and the Kremlin in December, before Mr. Trump took office. The White House hasn't commented. This as a White House aide telling NBC News they're setting up a war room to deal with reports like this one, led by Reince Priebus, Steve Bannon, and Jared Kushner, who was himself under FBI scrutiny. And while Kushner's not the subject of the investigation, multiple U.S. officials believe he has significant information.
The Washington Post reports Jared Kushner discussed setting up a line of secret communication between the Trump transition and the Russians. The Post says the president's son-in-law and point man on the Middle East spoke to Russia's ambassador to the U.S. about setting up the secure line in early December during a meeting at Trump Tower. We learned about the meeting back in March. Former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn was also there. The ambassador, Sergei Kislyak, went back to Moscow after the meeting, where he reportedly told his superiors that Kushner had suggested using Russian diplomatic facilities for the communications. It gives the appearance that Kushner was trying to avoid surveillance from U.S. intelligence. Keep in mind the FBI is investigating whether people in the Trump campaign might have been involved in Russia's attempt to interfere in the 2016 election. Reports from earlier in the week say Kushner is a person of interest in that probe.
According to stories published in the past 24 hours by the Washington Post, the New York Times, and Reuters, President Trump's son-in-law and close advisor Jared Kushner made an unusual proposal to Russia's ambassador to the U.S. after Mr. Trump won the election. The newspaper says last December, Kushner sought to establish a back channel to the Kremlin by using secure communications inside a Russian embassy or consulate in the U.S. Those discussions are now reportedly a subject of the FBI's ongoing investigation into administration relationships with Russia and Russian meddling in the election.
Robert Mueller was appointed to investigate any Russia collusion with the Trump campaign during the 2016 campaign. He concluded that there was no evidence of collusion. But when Trump leaves office, there are other charges he could face.
Well, tonight's big story nationally, a summary of special counsel Robert Mueller's report says the investigation did not find the president's campaign conspired with Russia.
Attorney General William Barr has released a letter summarizing the findings of Robert Mueller's investigation. It says there is no evidence the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with Russia back in 2016.
Even though there was insufficient evidence to prove the Trump campaign colluded with the Russians, the Trump campaign made every effort to do just that. If Trump had it his way, there would be nothing but collusion. But someone else had something to say about that. Vladimir Putin was smart enough not to collude with Trump because his involvement in the 2016 campaign was looking like it was going to get Trump elected, and he needed Trump, the patsy, in the White House. If Trump was convicted of collusion, Putin wouldn't have his patsy in the White House to help him with all of his plans.